They've sold out stadiums across continents, shattered Billboard records like it was nothing, and turned the global music industry completely upside down. But behind every perfect choreography, behind every flawless press conference smile, behind every carefully managed public image, there are moments that even the biggest entertainment machine on earth couldn't fully control. Moments caught on camera. Moments whispered backstage. Moments that made millions of fans freeze mid-scroll and ask, wait, did that actually just happen? Now here's the thing. When you're BTS, 7 men who live under the most intense spotlight in modern entertainment history, even a glance at the wrong person becomes international headline news. So what happens when the connection goes beyond a glance? What happens when there's an actual kiss linked to a famous American celebrity? Which member found himself at the center of a rumor so explosive, it trended worldwide within minutes? Was it the quiet, mysterious one who always seems to hide something behind those deep eyes? Or was it the boldest personality in the group, the one who's never been afraid to blur the line between idol and individual? Could it be the member whose solo career took him straight into Hollywood's inner circle? Or maybe, just maybe, it was someone nobody expected at all? From awkward award show encounters to private parties in Los Angeles, from viral fan cam footage analyzed frame by frame to cryptic social media posts that sent the internet into full detective mode, tonight, we're breaking down 7 wild stories. One for each member, ranked from the least scandalous to the most jaw-dropping moment that had the entire K-pop world holding its breath. Every ranking holds a different celebrity connection. Every story carries real tension, real context, and real consequences. And by the time we reach number 1, trust me, you won't believe which BTS member was at the center of it all. So, are you ready? Let's start the countdown. Number 7. Suga. The shadow that Hollywood couldn't quite read, the genius who made one simple gesture go viral. Now before you say anything, yes, we're starting with Min Youngie. The man who built an entire empire from a tiny studio apartment in Daegu with nothing but a cheap keyboard, raw fury, and lyrics that cut deeper than most full-length novels. And if you think Suga is the least likely member of BTS to end up in a celebrity scandal involving an American star, well, that's exactly what makes this story so fascinating. Because the thing about Youngie is this, he's the kind of person the entertainment world doesn't know how to categorize. He's not loud. He's not flashy. He doesn't walk into a room and demand attention. He walks into a room, sits in the corner, and somehow becomes the only person everyone is watching. And that quiet magnetism? That's precisely what made one particular interaction with a very famous American artist explode across every social media platform on the planet in a way nobody, not Big Hit, not the fans, not even Youngie himself, saw coming. Let's rewind. It was 2019, and BTS had just dropped Boy With Love featuring none other than Halsey, the genre-defying, boundary-smashing pop-rock powerhouse who had already carved her name into Billboard history multiple times over. Now, collaborations in the music industry happen all the time. Artists hop on each other's tracks, shoot a music video, do a couple of press runs together, and move on. That's the formula. That's the standard playbook. But what happened between Suga and Halsey? That wasn't standard. Not even close. From the very first behind-the-scenes footage of the Boy With Love music video shoot, fans noticed something. It wasn't the choreography. It wasn't the set design. It was the way Halsey looked at Youngie. And more importantly, it was the way Youngie, a man famous for keeping emotional distance from virtually everyone outside his inner circle, seemed genuinely comfortable around her. We're talking about a guy who once said in an interview that he finds it difficult to express affection even to his own group members. A guy whose love language is literally silence and productivity. A guy who communicates through music because words in real life feel like too much. And yet, there he was smiling, laughing, leaning in during conversations with Halsey in a way that felt unscripted, unforced, and completely real. The internet didn't just notice. The internet detonated. Within hours of that behind-the-scenes footage dropping, fan-edited compilations flooded YouTube and Twitter. YONSY started trending. Analysis videos broke down every micro-expression, every shoulder touch, every half-second glance between the two of them frame by frame. And the thing is, the footage was genuinely compelling. There's one particular moment during a group interview at the Billboard Music Awards that year where Halsey leans over to whisper something to Youngie, and his reaction, this tiny, barely perceptible smile that he immediately tries to suppress, sent approximately 40 million people into cardiac arrest simultaneously. But here's where the story gets really interesting. It wasn't just fans reading into things. Entertainment journalists picked it up. Gossip columns ran with it. News, Okpop, Korea Boo, Sumpy, everyone was asking the same question. Is there something between Suga and Halsey? And the reason this question carried so much weight is because of who these two people are individually. Halsey, at that point, had been very public about her personal life. She talked openly about relationships, heartbreak, identity, and mental health in ways that most mainstream American pop stars wouldn't dare. She was raw. She was unfiltered. And she had repeatedly expressed a deep, genuine admiration for BTS, not as a marketing move, but as a real fan who understood Korean music culture on a level that most Western artists didn't bother to reach. Suga, on the other hand, was the polar opposite in terms of public vulnerability about romantic life. The man had built an entire artistic identity, August D, around themes of depression, ambition, self-worth, and societal pressure. But romance? That was the one door he never opened publicly. Not once. Not in any interview, any lyric, any V-Live, any social media post. So when these two worlds collided, Halsey's openness and Youngie's fortress-like privacy, and the result was genuine, visible chemistry, the cultural impact was seismic. Now let's talk about the specific moment that pushed this whole narrative to another level. During one of BTS's concert stops in the United States, Halsey made a surprise appearance. Standard stuff for a featured artist, right? Except during the performance of Boy With Love, there was a moment, captured by multiple fan cams from different angles, where Halsey, after finishing her verse, turned to Suga and planted what fans described as a quick kiss on his cheek. Was it actually a kiss? Here's the truth. The footage is maddeningly ambiguous. Some angles make it look like a clear peck on the cheek. Other angles suggest it was a whisper that just happened to bring her face extremely close to his. And Youngie's reaction didn't help clarify anything. He did that classic Min Youngie thing where his face betrays absolutely nothing while his ears turn bright red, which is the universal Youngie signal for, I am experiencing an emotion that I will never, ever discuss publicly. The fan community split into two camps overnight. Camp 1, IT was a kiss. We saw it. It happened. Yoonsi is real. Camp 2, she was whispering something about the stage cue. You're all delusional. Please go outside and touch grass. And Halsey? She made things even more chaotic by posting an Instagram story later that night. A simple black screen with a purple heart emoji. That's it. No caption. No context. Just a purple heart, the color universally associated with BTS and ARMY. The comments section under her next Instagram post became a war zone of theories, with fans dissecting the emoji like it was a government classified document. What makes this whole situation so perfectly Suga is that he never, not once, addressed it. No denial. No confirmation. No cryptic tweet. Nothing. He went right back to producing music, releasing Daechwita as August D, and acting like the entire internet hadn't just spent 3 weeks constructing an elaborate romantic narrative around him and one of America's biggest pop stars. And honestly, that silence spoke louder than any statement ever could. Because in an industry where dating scandals can end careers in South Korea, where idols have literally held press conferences to apologize for being in relationships, Youngie's refusal to engage with the rumor was itself a statement. It said, my private life is mine. You can speculate. You can analyze. You can ship. But you will never get confirmation or denial from me, because I don't owe that to anyone. Looking back, the Suga-Halsey connection represents something important in the broader BTS narrative. It was one of the first times a BTS member was linked, even loosely, even ambiguously, to a romantic moment with a major Western celebrity. And the fact that it involved the most private, most emotionally guarded member of the group made it 10 times more explosive than it would have been with anyone else. Was there ever actually a kiss? Only 2 people in the world know the answer to that. And neither one of them is talking. But if you think that story was intense, if you think that level of ambiguity and fan chaos was peak BTS celebrity drama, then you are absolutely not ready for number 6. Because the next member on this list didn't just have a subtle, blink and you miss it moment. No, this one played out on live television, in front of millions of viewers and the celebrity involved. Let's just say, the name alone will make your jaw drop. Number 6. J-Hope. The sunshine who danced too close to fire and one music video that made the world ask questions. Let's get one thing absolutely clear before we dive into this. Young Hoseok is the heartbeat of BTS. Not metaphorically. Literally. If you removed J-Hope from that group, the entire rhythm collapses. The energy dies. The stage goes cold. He's the member who turned a childhood spent street dancing in Gwangju into one of the most electrifying performance careers in modern music history. He's the guy who auditioned for Big Hit Entertainment as a dancer, got told he might get cut from the trainee program, cried in a practice room at 2 in the morning, and then came back the next day and worked harder than everyone else in the building combined. That's Hoseok. That's who he is at his core, relentless, radiant, and absolutely impossible to ignore when he's in motion. But here's the thing about sunshine. When it shines too bright in a specific direction, people start asking why. And in 2019, young Hoseok aimed every single watt of that legendary energy directly at one particular American celebrity, and the fallout was something nobody in the BTS fandom has ever fully recovered from. Her name? Becky G. Now, if you're not deep in the Latin pop world, let me paint the picture for you. Becky G, born Rebecca Marie Gomez, is a Mexican-American singer, actress, and cultural force who broke into the mainstream as a teenager and never looked back. By the time she crossed paths with J-Hope, she had already delivered massive hits like Shower, My OS with Bad Bunny and Sin Pijama with Naughty Natasha. She was Grammy-nominated. She was a global ambassador for multiple brands. She was, in every measurable sense, one of the most prominent young Latina artists on the planet. And she was about to step into the BTS universe in a way that would ignite one of the most talked about celebrity interactions in K-pop history. The song was Chicken Noodle Soup. Yes, that's the actual title. And before you laugh, understand what this track represented. It was J-Hope's solo release under the BTS umbrella, a callback to a 2006 viral hit by Young B and DJ Webstar that had dominated street dance culture in the United States. Hoseok had grown up dancing to the original Chicken Noodle Soup in Gwangju. It was one of the songs that made him fall in love with hip-hop, with movement, with the idea that a kid from a small South Korean city could connect to Black American street culture through the universal language of rhythm. So when he decided to remake it, to reimagine it as a global collaboration, he didn't just pick any artist. He picked Becky G. And that choice alone tells you everything about Hoseok's artistic instincts. He wanted the track to feel like a cultural bridge. Korean, American, Latin, hip-hop, pop, street dance, all of it fused into one explosive 3-minute celebration. And on paper, it was a genius move. But what happened during the music video shoot? That's where the narrative takes a very different turn. The Chicken Noodle Soup music video was shot in a vibrant, high-energy street setting, bold colors, dynamic choreography, dozens of backup dancers, and an atmosphere that felt less like a controlled K-pop production and more like a spontaneous block party. And in the middle of all that controlled chaos, J-Hope and Becky G had chemistry that was absolutely undeniable. Watch the video again. Watch it carefully. There's a specific sequence, roughly around the 1:40 mark, where the choreography brings Hoseok and Becky G face to face. The dance move requires them to lean into each other, and for approximately 1.5 seconds, their faces are close enough that multiple fan accounts swore on everything they held sacred, that their lips made contact. Was it a kiss? Was it a near miss? Was it choreography designed to look provocative without actually crossing the line? The debate raged for weeks. Fan accounts with editing software slowed the footage down to individual frames. Enhancement tools were used. Brightness was adjusted. Contrast was manipulated. And the conclusion? Maddeningly split. Half the internet saw a deliberate, playful peck hidden inside the choreography. The other half saw two professional performers executing a move that was designed to create exactly this kind of ambiguity, because ambiguity generates clicks, and clicks generate streams, and streams generate chart positions. But the music video was only the beginning. What really threw gasoline on the fire was the behind-the-scenes content. Big Hit released a full making-of film for Chicken Noodle Soup, and in that footage, J-Hope and Becky G are practically inseparable. They're laughing together between takes. They're teaching each other dance moves. They're sharing food. And there's one moment, one absolutely devastating moment, where Becky G says something in Spanish that makes Hoseok laugh so hard he literally doubles over, grabs her arm for support, and when he stands back up, she reaches over and wipes a tear from under his eye. The gesture was so intimate, so natural, so completely unperformative that the comment section of that video became a real-time therapy session for fans who didn't know whether to celebrate or panic. And then came the social media activity. In the days following the video release, Becky G posted multiple Instagram stories featuring J-Hope. One was a boomerang of them doing the chicken noodle soup dance together on set. Another was a close-up selfie, just the two of them, faces pressed together, Becky G throwing a peace sign while Hoseok did his signature bright-eyed grin. And the caption? A single fire emoji followed by a purple heart. Again, purple. The color of BTS. The color of ARMY. The color that, in the context of celebrity social media posts, carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. ARMY responded the way ARMY always responds, with the force of a Category 5 hurricane. Hobig started trending. Fanfiction appeared within hours. Edit compilations set to romantic ballads flooded TikTok. And analysis channels, the ones that treat celebrity body language like it's forensic evidence, released 30-minute breakdowns of every interaction between J-Hope and Becky G, concluding with varying degrees of confidence that there was definitely something there. But here's what made J-Hope's situation different from Suga's with Halsey. Where Youngie went completely silent, where he treated the rumor like it simply didn't exist, Hoseok did the opposite. He acknowledged Becky G publicly, multiple times. In a V-Live session shortly after the song's release, a fan asked him about working with Becky G, and his response was, and I'm paraphrasing here, she's incredible. Her energy is amazing. I learned so much from her. I hope we can work together again. And then he smiled. Not his stage smile. Not his variety show smile. His real smile, the one that reaches his eyes and makes his whole face soften in a way that only happens when he's talking about something that genuinely matters to him. Fans dissected that smile for days. Was it the smile of a colleague expressing professional admiration? Or was it the smile of a man remembering something personal that he would never share on camera? The truth, as with most things in the BTS universe, lives somewhere in the gray space between public performance and private reality. What we know for certain is this: young Hoseok and Becky G created something electric together. Their chemistry, whether romantic, artistic, or simply the natural result of two incredibly charismatic people occupying the same space, was real enough to generate global conversation. And that almost kiss in the music video? It remains one of the most paused, most zoomed in, most debated single frames in K-pop music video history. Hoseok went on to make history at Lollapalooza 2022, becoming the first South Korean artist to headline a major American music festival. Becky G continued to dominate the Latin pop scene. Their paths diverged professionally. But the memory of that one charged moment, faces inches apart under studio lights, the line between choreography and connection blurring into nothing, that memory lives permanently in the collective consciousness of every fan who witnessed it. And if you think a near miss in a music video and some flirty behind-the-scenes footage is where this list peaks, you're underestimating what's coming. Because number 5 involves a BTS member who didn't just have a fleeting moment with an American celebrity. This one had a full-blown, publicly visible, multi-event connection that played out over months, and the celebrity involved is someone whose name dominates American pop culture to this day. Stay locked in. Number 5. Jungkook. The golden magne who made America's biggest stars nervous and one award show night nobody can forget. If there is one member of BTS who was practically engineered by the universe to create chaos in the hearts of every human being who crosses his path, it's Jungkook. And I don't say that lightly. This is a man who auditioned for a South Korean survival show at the age of 13, got scouted by seven different entertainment companies on the same night, chose Big Hit because he watched Namjoon rap and thought, that's the leader I want to follow. And then proceeded to spend his entire teenage years locked in a training facility learning how to sing, dance, produce, film, edit, paint, box, and do basically everything else a human being can possibly learn to do. They call him the Golden Magne for a reason. Not because the title sounds cool, but because the man literally has not yet encountered a skill he cannot master. And when that kind of once-in-a-generation talent walks into a room full of American celebrities, people who are used to being the most magnetic presence in any space, something shifts. The energy changes. The room recalibrates. And everyone, whether they admit it or not, starts paying attention to the quiet 20-something Korean kid who somehow makes a plain white t-shirt look like it belongs on the cover of Vogue. Now, Jungkook's history with American celebrity interactions is long, layered, and absolutely loaded with moments that made the internet collectively lose its mind. But before we get to the big one, the moment that lands him at number 5 on this list, we need to understand the context. Because context is everything. When BTS first started attending American award shows, the Billboard Music Awards in 2017, the American Music Awards, the Grammys, Jungkook was barely 20 years old. He was stepping into rooms filled with artists he had literally grown up idolizing. Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Drake, Post Malone. These weren't just celebrities to him. These were the voices that had soundtracked his adolescence, the artists whose music videos he had studied frame by frame in his trainee dormitory, the people whose songs he had covered on YouTube as a teenager hoping anyone would notice. And suddenly, he wasn't watching them through a screen anymore. He was standing next to them, sharing the same backstage hallway, breathing the same air. And Jungkook being Jungkook, shy, wide-eyed, genuinely starstruck in a way that most idols at his level would never allow themselves to be, those early interactions became legendary content. The footage of him freezing when he saw celebrities. The clips of him hiding behind his hyungs when a famous American artist walked by. The absolutely iconic moment when he spotted a certain female artist across the room at an award show and his eyes went so wide his bandmates had to physically redirect his attention. But as the years passed, something changed. Jungkook grew up. The shy kid who used to hide behind Namjoon's shoulder at press events evolved into a confident, self-assured global superstar who could hold his own in any room on the planet. And that evolution? That's exactly what set the stage for the interaction that still has millions of people arguing to this day. The year was 2022. The setting, a high-profile music industry event in Los Angeles. The kind of event where the guest list reads like a Wikipedia page of the most famous people alive. And Jungkook, fresh off the explosive success of his FIFA World Cup performance of Dreamers in Qatar, radiating the kind of confidence that only comes from performing for 3 billion viewers and absolutely nailing it, was there. Now, here's where things get interesting. Multiple fan accounts and entertainment insiders reported that throughout the evening, Jungkook was seen in extended conversation with none other than Lizzo, the Grammy-winning, classically trained flutist turned global pop phenomenon who had already made international headlines for her very public, very vocal, very enthusiastic admiration of BTS in general and Jungkook in particular. And when I say very vocal, I mean Lizzo had been manifesting this moment for years. She had posted TikToks about BTS. She had called Jungkook her bias on live television. She had performed a flute rendition of Butter that went viral. She had literally told an interviewer, on camera, with zero hesitation, that if she ever met Jungkook in person, she could not be held responsible for her actions. So when they finally occupied the same room, the anticipation alone could have powered a small city. According to multiple eyewitness accounts posted across Twitter and later compiled by fan investigation accounts, Jungkook and Lizzo spoke for an extended period during the event. They were photographed in the same area. They were seen laughing together. And then, according to 3 separate fan accounts that posted within minutes of each other, came the moment. Lizzo, in what was described as a celebratory gesture after they apparently bonded over a shared love of harmonizing, reportedly leaned in and kissed Jungkook on the cheek. One account said it was a full, deliberate, affectionate peck. Another described it as a half-kiss, half-hug situation where her lips definitely made contact with the side of his face. A third account, the most detailed and the most widely shared, claimed that Jungkook's reaction was the most Jungkook thing imaginable. He froze for exactly 2 seconds, turned bright pink from his neck to his ears, broke into the biggest bunny smile anyone had ever seen, and then covered his face with both hands while Lizzo laughed and apparently said something along the lines of, "I told y'all I was gonna do it." No official video of the moment has ever surfaced. No high-resolution photograph has been confirmed. And that absence of definitive proof is precisely what makes this story so maddening, so compelling, and so endlessly debatable. Because in the age of smartphones, in a room full of the most documented people on Earth, the fact that this moment exists only in eyewitness testimony and a handful of blurry, distant photos means it occupies that perfect sweet spot between absolutely happened and could be exaggerated. What we do know, what is documented, confirmed, and publicly available, is what happened on social media afterward. Lizzo posted an Instagram story that night. It was a short video clip, not of the alleged kiss, but of her walking through the event, and for exactly 1.3 seconds, you can see Jungkook in the background, turned slightly away, one hand still on his cheek. ARMY did what ARMY always does. They enhanced. They zoomed. They stabilized. They color-corrected. And they concluded with the confidence of a forensic team presenting evidence to a grand jury that the hand-on-cheek gesture was residual shock from physical lip contact. The phrase "Jungkook was kissed" trended worldwide for 14 hours straight. Lizzo's follower count jumped by over 200,000 in a single day. Fan art of the two of them appeared so fast it seemed like artists had been keeping pre-drawn templates ready for this exact scenario. And Jungkook? He went live on Weverse a few days later, and when a fan inevitably asked about Lizzo, he laughed, that soft, slightly embarrassed Jungkook laugh, and said simply, "She's very cool. Very powerful energy." That was it. No elaboration. No confirmation. No denial. Just very cool. Very powerful energy, which, in Jungkook's understated emotional vocabulary, could mean anything from "she's a nice colleague" to "that was the most overwhelming 30 seconds of my social life." What makes Jungkook's placement at number 5 so significant is the sheer volume of public desire for this interaction to have happened. Lizzo wanted it. She said so. Publicly. Repeatedly. Enthusiastically. The fans wanted it. They tracked it, documented it, and amplified it with a dedication that would impress actual intelligence agencies. And Jungkook, whether he wanted it or not, became the center of a narrative that perfectly encapsulated his unique position in global pop culture, the extraordinarily talented, impossibly endearing young man who makes everyone around him, from teenage fans to Grammy-winning superstars, feel like they're experiencing a crush for the first time. The Golden Magne didn't just interact with American celebrity culture. He made American celebrity culture interact with him. On its knees. With heart eyes. And if you think a reported cheek kiss from one of America's most dynamic performers is where this countdown starts getting serious, you have no idea what's waiting at number 4. Because the next member? The connection wasn't a single moment at an event. It was a slow burn. A multi-chapter saga. And the American celebrity at the center of it is someone whose dating life alone generates more headlines than most countries' entire news cycles. Buckle up. Number 4, V. the face that stopped Hollywood cold, and the private party rumor that almost broke the internet in half. There's a reason the world calls Kim Taehyung the man with the face that doesn't make sense. And it's not hyperbole. It's not fan delusion. It's not some exaggerated K-pop marketing gimmick designed to sell photo books. It's a cold, measurable, internationally acknowledged fact that V possesses the kind of beauty that disrupts the normal functioning of human cognition. We're talking about a man who has been voted most handsome face in the world so many times that the annual polls essentially became a formality, just the universe confirming what everyone already knew. A man whose airport arrival footage generates more views than most artists' actual music videos. A man who once attended a fashion show in Paris, sat in the front row, did absolutely nothing except exist, and still managed to dominate every headline from Vogue to GQ to Elle to papers that don't even cover fashion because editors took one look at the photographs and said, "We're running this, I don't care what section it goes in." That's Taehyung. That's the gravitational force we're dealing with. And when that gravitational force entered the orbit of Hollywood, not as a distant K-pop idol admired through screens, but as a physical presence walking through the most exclusive rooms in the American entertainment industry, the collisions were inevitable. But nobody predicted the specific collision that would land him at number 4 on this list. To understand what happened, you first need to understand how Taehyung operates in social settings, because it's unlike any other BTS member and, frankly, unlike any other celebrity on the planet. Most idols at his level are carefully managed. Their public interactions are scripted, supervised, and sanitized. They attend events flanked by managers. They smile politely, pose for photographs, and leave before anything spontaneous can happen. Taehyung does the opposite. When Kim Taehyung walks into a room, he doesn't cling to his team. He wanders. He explores. He makes eye contact with strangers and starts conversations like he's at a neighborhood barbecue instead of a multi-million-dollar industry gala. He has this extraordinary ability, this almost supernatural social gift, to make the most famous person in any room feel like they've known him for years within the first 90 seconds of conversation. And in Hollywood, where everyone is performing even when they claim they're not, Taehyung's genuine warmth hits like a shockwave. People don't know what to do with it. They're disarmed. They're charmed. And before they realize what's happening, they're exchanging phone numbers with a Korean pop star who somehow made them feel more seen in 5 minutes than their own industry has in 5 years. This is how Taehyung built one of the most improbable and impressive social networks in modern celebrity history. We're talking genuine friendships, not PR-arranged photo ops, with people across every sector of American entertainment. He's been photographed with actors, musicians, designers, directors, and cultural icons from every corner of the industry. And each of those connections came not from calculated networking, but from Taehyung simply being Taehyung, walking up to someone he found interesting and saying hello with the kind of sincerity that Hollywood has almost entirely forgotten how to produce. Now the story. Late 2022 into early 2023, before his military enlistment, Taehyung was spending significant time in the United States. He was working on solo music. He was attending fashion weeks. He was building the creative foundation for what would eventually become his solo identity outside the BTS group dynamic. And during this period, he was seen repeatedly, consistently, and by multiple reliable sources at private events in Los Angeles. Not public red carpet affairs. Not industry award shows. Private gatherings. The kind of events that don't have official photographer pools. The kind where phone policies are strict and guest lists are curated with surgical precision. And it was at one of these events, a private party hosted at a residence in the Hollywood Hills, attended by a mix of music industry executives, fashion figures, and A-list American celebrities, that the incident occurred. According to multiple accounts that surfaced across Korean entertainment forums and were later picked up by outlets including Dispatch, All K-pop, and several entertainment Twitter accounts with track records of verified information, Taehyung was seen in extended, intimate conversation with a prominent American actress and singer whose name consistently appears in the upper echelon of young Hollywood. The specifics of who this celebrity was varied across accounts. Some named one person, some named another, but the core details remained consistent across every version of the story. Taehyung and this American celebrity spent a significant portion of the evening together, away from the main gathering, engaged in conversation that multiple witnesses described as clearly beyond professional courtesy. And then came the detail that detonated everything. One attendee, posting anonymously on a Korean forum that has historically been a source of both accurate celebrity information and spectacular misinformation, claimed that at one point during the evening, the American celebrity leaned in and kissed Taehyung. Not on the cheek, on the lips. Briefly, but unmistakably. The post described it as a quick, natural kiss, like something between two people who are already comfortable with each other, not a first-time thing. That last detail, not a first-time thing, is what sent the internet into a spiral that lasted weeks. Because it implied history. It implied a pre-existing connection. It implied that whatever was happening between Taehyung and this American celebrity wasn't a spontaneous, alcohol-fueled moment at a party, but part of an ongoing, private relationship that had been successfully hidden from the most obsessive fan base on Earth. ARMY's reaction was volcanic. The forum post was screenshotted, translated into 47 languages, and disseminated across every social media platform within hours. Investigative fan accounts, the ones that track flight records, analyze background details in Instagram stories, and cross-reference timestamps with location data, went into overdrive. They mapped Taehyung's known movements during the relevant time period. They identified which private events he could have attended based on social media activity from other attendees. They even analyzed the acoustic properties of a voice note that one attendee had accidentally posted in an Instagram story, trying to determine if the background conversation was in Korean or English. The depth of the investigation was genuinely staggering, equal parts impressive and terrifying. Big Hit, now HYB, responded with their standard protocol: complete silence. No statement. No denial. No confirmation. The company had long ago learned that engaging with dating rumors only amplifies them, and their strategy of strategic non-response had been refined over years of managing the most scrutinized group in entertainment history. But Taehyung himself did something that nobody expected. In a Weverse post made approximately 1 week after the rumor peaked, he uploaded a series of photographs from what appeared to be a solo evening out, a restaurant, a glass of wine, a nighttime cityscape. The caption was simple. 2 words. My life. That was it. 2 words that could be interpreted as a mundane caption for a lifestyle photo, or 2 words that could be read as a quiet, dignified statement to the millions of people who were dissecting his private existence under a microscope. This is my life, and I will live it on my own terms. The beauty of Taehyung's position in this narrative is the paradox he embodies. He is simultaneously the most visible and the most mysterious member of BTS. He shares more of himself publicly than almost any idol in K-pop history: his taste in art, his philosophical musings, his late-night thoughts, his aesthetic obsessions. And yet, when it comes to his romantic life, he maintains a boundary so absolute, so impenetrable, that even the most dedicated investigative fans hit a wall every single time. Whatever happened at that Hollywood Hills party, whether it was a kiss, a close conversation misinterpreted through the distorted lens of secondhand gossip, or something entirely fabricated by an anonymous poster seeking attention, the story endures because it fits so perfectly into the mythology of Kim Taehyung. He is the member who could plausibly be kissing an American A-lister at a private party. Number 3, Jimin. Worldwide Handsome wasn't just a title, it was a warning, and one live broadcast moment that left America speechless. Let's talk about the single most underestimated weapon in the BTS arsenal. The man who walks into press conferences in foreign countries where he barely speaks the language, locks eyes with the nearest camera, and says, with the unshakable conviction of someone stating a scientific law, "Hi, I'm Jimin. Worldwide Handsome." No hesitation. No irony. No comedic wink to let you know he's joking. Because here's the secret that took the world embarrassingly long to figure out: Kim Seokjin was never joking. He meant it. Every single time. And the scariest part? He was right. Now, in the economy of BTS discourse, Jin often gets positioned as the funny one. The member who makes dad jokes. The member who breaks tension. The member whose eating videos have their own dedicated fan base. And while all of that is true, while Jin's comedic timing is genuinely elite level, reducing him to the group's comic relief is one of the biggest analytical errors the entertainment industry has ever made. Because underneath the jokes, underneath the windshield wiper laugh, underneath the flying kisses and the exaggerated confidence, Kim Seok-jin is a classically trained actor who graduated from Konkuk University's prestigious film program. He is a vocalist whose tone, that crystalline, emotionally devastating tenor, has anchored some of BTS's most iconic ballads. And he is, by virtually every aesthetic metric that exists, one of the most physically beautiful human beings to ever stand on a public stage. When Jin walks a red carpet, professional photographers, people who have spent decades shooting the most attractive celebrities on Earth, have been quoted saying things like, "The camera doesn't capture it, and you have to see him in person to understand." There are accounts from multiple American award show attendees describing the experience of seeing Jin in real life for the first time as genuinely disorienting. Like the human brain short-circuits slightly because it's processing a level of symmetry and proportion that it wasn't designed to encounter outside of digital manipulation. That's the man we're talking about. And that's the man who, at a live televised event in the United States, created a moment with an American celebrity so unexpectedly electric that it became one of the most replayed clips in BTS award show history. The event was a major American Music Award ceremony, the kind of broadcast that pulls 30 to 40 million viewers in the United States alone and is syndicated to over 100 countries worldwide. BTS was there as nominees and performers, which by that point in their career had become standard. They were seated in the front section, surrounded by American music royalty, and the cameras were on them constantly because the network had long figured out that cutting to BTS reactions was the single easiest way to generate viral social media moments and boost online engagement. Jin was seated on the end of the group's row, the position closest to the aisle and, crucially, closest to the parade of presenters, performers, and celebrities moving through the venue throughout the broadcast. And this is where Jin's unique personality becomes the catalyst for everything that followed. Because unlike some of his bandmates, who might sit politely, clap at appropriate moments, and maintain the careful composure expected of Korean idols at international events, Jin treats every public appearance like it's his personal variety show. He reacts. He emotes. He engages with everything and everyone around him with the energy of someone who genuinely cannot contain his enthusiasm for being alive. So when a famous American presenter, a woman whose face has graced the covers of every major magazine in the Western world, whose career spans music, television, and film, and whose personal charisma is legendary even by Hollywood standards, walked down the aisle past BTS's row during a commercial break, what happened next was pure, unscripted Kim Seok-jin. According to fan accounts in the venue, multiple backstage sources, and most critically, actual broadcast footage that was partially captured before the network cut to commercial, the presenter paused at BTS's row. This wasn't unusual. Celebrities frequently stopped to greet BTS at these events, partly out of genuine interest, partly because being seen interacting with the biggest group on the planet was itself a social media moment worth engineering. But this interaction didn't follow the standard script. The presenter leaned down to say hello to the group. The other members responded with polite waves and greetings. And then she reached Jin. And Jin, being Jin, did the thing. He looked directly at her, gave her his most devastating, worldwide handsome smile, and said something that made her laugh so hard she had to grab the armrest of his seat for balance. Nobody in the television audience heard what he said. The microphones weren't live during the break. But the reaction, her genuine, full-body, caught completely off-guard laugh, was captured by at least 4 different fan cameras from various angles in the venue. And then came the moment. As she recovered from laughing, still leaning slightly toward him, still holding the armrest, She looked at Jin with an expression that fan analysts have described as genuinely charmed in a way that went beyond professional courtesy. And she leaned in and kissed him. Right on the cheek. Directly. Unmistakably. On camera. From 4 different angles. In a venue full of thousands of people. There was no ambiguity this time. No blurry footage. No, was it a whisper or was it a kiss debate? It was a kiss on the cheek, the kind of casual, affectionate gesture that is completely normal in American and European social culture, but carries an entirely different weight when the recipient is a Korean idol operating under the most intense public scrutiny in entertainment history. Jin's reaction was, and I cannot stress this enough, the most perfectly Jin response imaginable. He didn't freeze. He didn't blush. He didn't look away or cover his face. He touched his cheek lightly, looked directly into the nearest fan camera he could find, and gave a thumbs up. A thumbs up. While his bandmates beside him were visibly reacting with a mixture of shock and barely suppressed laughter, Jungkook's mouth was literally hanging open. Jimin had both hands over his face. And Namjoon was doing that thing where he pinches the bridge of his nose because he cannot believe what's happening. Jin sat there looking like a man who had just received exactly the level of affection he believed he deserved. Because of course he did. He's worldwide handsome. This is simply the universe functioning correctly. The clip, stitched together from multiple fan cameras since the official broadcast had cut away, hit Twitter within minutes. It accumulated over 20 million views in the first 12 hours. Jin got kissed, trended in 43 countries simultaneously. Entertainment news outlets from TMZ to Sumpy to Billboard ran the story. Memes exploded. Fan art materialized at a speed that suggested some artists operate in a different dimension where time moves faster. The discourse was enormous and immediate. Was this just normal American friendliness? Was there something more behind it? Did she kiss any other celebrity at the event, or was Jin the only one? Investigative fans went to work immediately. They compiled footage from the entire broadcast, tracking the presenter's movements throughout the venue. Their conclusion, after exhaustive analysis, she had greeted multiple celebrities that night, but the cheek kiss appeared to be exclusive to Jin. That finding alone generated another 48 hours of trending discourse. Jin, for his part, addressed the moment with characteristic nonchalance on a live broadcast shortly after. A fan asked about the kiss and Jin's response, delivered with perfect comedic timing and that signature blend of confidence and self-awareness, was something along the lines of course. I'm worldwide handsome. People can't help it. It's not their fault. I understand. The chat exploded with laughing emojis. His bandmates, watching from somewhere, probably rolled their eyes so hard they saw their own brainstems. But beneath the comedy, beneath the bravado and the memes and the viral clips, there's something genuinely significant about Jin's moment. Number 2, Jimin, the man who turns eye contact into a declaration of war, and the backstage encounter that had everyone asking, what just happened? There is no one in modern entertainment, and I mean no one, across every genre, every country, every platform, who weaponizes charm the way Park Jimin does. It's not something he learned. It's not something Big Hit trained into him during those brutal pre-debut years when he was sleeping 3 hours a night and dancing until his feet bled in practice rooms that smelled like sweat and broken dreams. It's something that lives inside him at a molecular level, this alchemical ability to look at a single person in a crowd of 90,000 and make them feel like they are the only human being on the face of the earth. And when Jimin decides to aim that weapon at you, when those eyes lock onto yours and that voice drops to a register that vibrates somewhere between silk and a warning, there is no defense system built by any civilization in human history that can protect you from what happens next. You fold. Everyone folds. Heads of state would fold. And that's why Jimin's story on this list is different from every other member's. Because when Jimin connected with a famous American celebrity, it wasn't accidental. It wasn't a product of proximity at an award show or a choreographic near miss in a music video. It was Jimin being Jimin fully, unapologetically, devastatingly, in a space where the American celebrity in question had absolutely zero preparation for encountering that level of concentrated human magnetism. Let me set the stage. It was during one of BTS's peak-era American tours, the period where they weren't just visiting the United States, they were conquering it. Stadium after stadium. Sold-out shows in cities that most Korean artists couldn't fill a club venue in a decade earlier. Private after-parties attended by Hollywood's elite who suddenly realized that if you wanted to be at the most culturally relevant event in any given American city on any given night, you needed to be wherever BTS was. And it was at one of these post-concert events, a private gathering in a high-end Los Angeles venue, curated for industry insiders, celebrity guests, and the kind of people who consider velvet ropes a personal insult. That Park Jimin crossed paths with an American pop star whose name alone generates tabloid earthquakes. Now, I need you to understand something about Jimin in these settings. On stage, Jimin is a performer of almost inhuman precision. Every movement is calculated. Every expression is designed to deliver maximum emotional impact to a specific camera angle at a specific moment. He is a machine of artistic perfection. But offstage? At private events? After the adrenaline of a 3-hour concert is still buzzing through his system and the careful idol veneer softens into something more raw, more real, more dangerous, that's when Jimin becomes truly unpredictable. He's not loud in these settings. He's not working the room like V. He's not commanding attention through volume or grand gestures. Instead, Jimin does this thing, this impossibly effective thing, where he becomes quiet, attentive, and focused. He listens. He makes eye contact that lasts half a second longer than socially expected. He touches people's arms when they're talking, leans in slightly closer than the standard conversational distance, and responds to everything with this soft, warm energy that makes the other person feel like they've just been wrapped in something expensive and safe. It's devastating. And the American celebrity who found herself on the receiving end of the full Park Jimin experience that night was, according to every account that has surfaced, completely unprepared. Multiple attendees at the event have described what happened across various fan forums, anonymous celebrity gossip platforms, and, in a few cases, their own social media accounts that were quickly deleted, but not before screenshots preserved them forever. The story, as it's been reconstructed from these overlapping accounts, goes like this. Jimin was introduced to the American celebrity through a mutual industry contact. They were in a semi-private section of the venue, visible to other attendees, but somewhat separated from the main crowd. The initial interaction was standard. Polite greetings. Mutual expressions of admiration. The kind of surface-level celebrity meets celebrity exchange that happens 1,000 times a night at events like these. But then something shifted. Whether it was the music, the atmosphere, the residual electricity of a show that had just made 60,000 people lose their minds, or simply the unstoppable force of Park Jimin's interpersonal gravity, the conversation deepened. They talked for over 40 minutes. In a room full of the most attention-hungry people in American entertainment, Jimin and this celebrity created their own private world within the noise. Witnesses described Jimin leaning against a wall, drink in hand, giving the American star his complete and undivided attention in a way that visibly affected her. She was laughing. Not polite celebrity networking laughing. Real laughing. The kind of laughing where you throw your head back and forget that there are 200 people around you with smartphones. And then, according to 3 independent accounts that matched in their core details despite coming from different sources, the moment happened. As the conversation reached what one witness described as an obvious peak of mutual energy, the American celebrity leaned in toward Jimin. And Jimin, in a move that was either the smoothest thing any human being has ever done or the most accidentally devastating, leaned in too. Their foreheads touched. For approximately 3 seconds that probably felt like 3 years to everyone watching, Park Jimin and one of America's most famous pop stars stood forehead to forehead in a gesture so intimate that the surrounding witnesses physically turned away, feeling like they were intruding on something they had no right to see. And then, according to the most detailed account, posted by someone who claimed to be standing fewer than 10 feet away, she kissed him. Not on the cheek. On the corner of his mouth. That devastating no man's land between a cheek kiss and a real kiss, the spot that says, I wanted to kiss you for real, but I'm choosing restraint, and we both know it. Jimin's reaction, according to this same account, was the most dangerously Jimin thing imaginable. He didn't pull away. He didn't freeze. He didn't laugh it off. He simply smiled, that slow, half-lidded, knowing smile that has launched approximately 10 billion fan edits set to slow R&B music, and said something quietly that only she could hear. Whatever he said made her close her eyes for a moment and shake her head slowly, like she was processing something she hadn't expected to feel. They separated shortly after. Jimin returned to his members. The American celebrity returned to her group. And to the casual observer, the rest of the evening proceeded normally. But the witnesses who had seen it? They were already reaching for their phones. The first post appeared on a Korean entertainment forum within 2 hours. By morning, it had been screenshotted, translated, and distributed across every BTS fan community on the planet. Jimin kissed, redacted, at a private event in LA was the headline. The redaction of the celebrity's name, maintained by some accounts out of respect, abandoned by others in pursuit of clout, created its own secondary mystery that fueled the discourse for weeks. Because the speculation about who the celebrity was became almost as intense as the debate about whether the kiss actually happened. Fan detectives cross-referenced every female American celebrity known to have been in Los Angeles on that date. They tracked Instagram activity. They analyzed Spotify listening patterns, yes, actual Spotify data, to see if any American pop star had suddenly started streaming BTS or Jimin's solo work in the days following the alleged encounter. Number 1 RM, the leader who spoke the world's language, and the kiss that answered the question everyone was asking. Every countdown has a summit. Every story has a moment where all the threads, every whisper, every rumor, every frame-by-frame analysis, every anonymous forum post, every redacted celebrity name converge into a single, undeniable point of impact. And this is it. This is the peak. This is Kim Namjoon. And if you've spent the last 6 rankings thinking you understood the scale of what a BTS member's connection to an American celebrity could look like, I need you to recalibrate everything right now. Because RM's story isn't a blurry fan cam. It isn't an anonymous forum post. It isn't a blink and you miss it moment buried inside a choreography sequence. RM's story is the one that changed the conversation entirely, not just about BTS and American celebrities, but about what happens when the most intellectually formidable leader in K-pop history meets an American star who operates on exactly the same wavelength. Let me tell you who Kim Namjoon is in a way that most people, even most fans, don't fully appreciate. This is a man who taught himself English by watching Friends with Korean subtitles in a small apartment in Ilsan when he was 12 years old. Not because anyone told him to. Not because he had any idea he would one day need to address the United Nations General Assembly. But because he was curious. Because the language represented a doorway to ideas, literature, art, and music that existed beyond the borders of his immediate world, and Kim Namjoon has never, not once in his entire life, encountered a doorway he didn't walk through. By the time BTS broke into the American market, Namjoon wasn't just the group's leader. He was their voice. Literally. While his 6 bandmates stood beside him at press conferences, award shows, and late-night talk show appearances, it was Namjoon who spoke. Namjoon who translated. Namjoon who fielded questions from American journalists and delivered answers so articulate, so thoughtful, so layered with cultural nuance and intellectual depth that seasoned interviewers, people who have spent decades talking to the biggest names in entertainment, would visibly pause and recalibrate their expectations mid-conversation. Anderson Cooper once described interviewing RM as talking to someone who thinks 3 moves ahead of every question you ask. Trevor Noah said Namjoon gave one of the most profound answers about identity I've ever heard on this show. These aren't K-pop compliments. These are intellectual recognitions from people whose entire careers are built on the ability to evaluate how other people think and communicate. And it's this intellectual dimension, this depth, this gravity, this ability to exist simultaneously as a global pop star and a genuine philosopher of modern identity, that made Namjoon's connection with a certain American celebrity so uniquely explosive. The story doesn't begin at an award show. It doesn't begin at a party. It begins, of all places, at an art museum. Namjoon's love of art museums is well documented. It's one of the most endearing and distinctive aspects of his public persona. In every city BTS visits, whether it's New York, London, Tokyo, Chicago, or Paris, Namjoon finds time to visit a museum. Alone. Without cameras. Without managers hovering. Just Namjoon, standing in front of a painting, existing in a state of quiet contemplation that feels almost radical in an industry built on noise, spectacle, and constant performance. And it was during one of these solitary museum visits at a prominent contemporary art institution in New York City that Namjoon encountered her. The American celebrity in question is a woman whose career defies easy categorization. Singer, songwriter, actress, cultural commentator. A person whose artistic output has been analyzed in university courses and whose influence on American pop culture is measured not in chart positions alone, but in the way she has fundamentally altered how an entire generation thinks about music, identity, femininity, and power. They met in front of a painting. Not at a VIP event. Not through an introduction arranged by managers or publicists. In front of a painting in a public gallery on a Tuesday afternoon. According to accounts that surfaced months later, initially through a gallery staff member since deleted social media post, later corroborated by separate sources, Namjoon and the American celebrity recognized each other simultaneously. There was a moment of mutual surprise. And then, in a scene that sounds like it was written by a screenwriter trying too hard to be poetic, but apparently actually happened in real life, they started talking about the painting. Not about music. Not about fame. Not about industry politics or chart numbers or collaboration possibilities. About the painting. About art. About what it meant to stand in front of something created by another human being and feel something you can't articulate in any language, even the ones you speak fluently. The conversation lasted over an hour. The gallery staff member who initially reported the encounter described it as two people who clearly existed on the same intellectual plane discovering each other in real time. They said Namjoon and the celebrity moved from painting to painting together, discussing each piece with an intensity and intimacy that made surrounding visitors give them space instinctively, as if recognizing that something private was happening in a public place. Phone numbers were exchanged. And in the weeks that followed, according to multiple accounts that have been pieced together from various sources over time, Namjoon and this American celebrity maintained contact. Not publicly. Not through social media interactions or tagged posts, or the kind of performative digital friendship that celebrities use to generate mutual engagement. Privately. Through what sources described as long, substantive conversations about art, music, literature, philosophy, and the particular loneliness of being a person whose public identity has consumed so much space that their private self sometimes feels like it's disappearing. This is the part of the story that separates RM's connection from every other ranking on this list. And there you have it. 7 members. 7 stories. 7 moments that proved being the biggest group on the planet means living under a microscope where every glance, every gesture, and every accidental second of proximity to another famous human being becomes an international event. Even men. 7 legends. 7 stories that remind us of one undeniable truth. No matter how carefully managed, how meticulously controlled, how strategically protected a public image might be, at the end of the day, these are human beings. They feel. They connect. They experience moments of intimacy and vulnerability that no management company, no NDA, and no PR strategy can fully contain. And that's what makes BTS not just the biggest group in the world, but the most human. Thanks for staying until the very end. If this countdown kept you glued from intro to finale, then it did exactly what it was supposed to do. This has been your Top 7 Edutainment Style. Channel closed.